and far, so I'm the one who harasses you with all the emails about the Bridges Out of Poverty workshops, and I'm glad to see that you're ready to get me off your back and that you're here. Thank you for coming on a Friday afternoon and being here. I want to tell you just a little bit about what we're going to do today, and then just hand it over to our presenters. And I wrote it down because I'm a terrible extemporaneous speaker, so here we go. I'm really excited that you're here and that you're giving 8 hours of your time, which I know is valuable, to attend this workshop. And by the way, when I say 8 hours, I don't mean we're staying till 8:30 tonight, but until 4:30 today, and then a week from today, next Friday, from 12:30 to 4:30 again. And I know that some of you need to leave early, some of you need to come late, and that is fine. So we just want to let you know, come on in. Just grab what you need. So the information we're going to discuss today is drawn from only one of the many resources that is published by a company called AHA Processing. Okay? This is a professional development company that works across many facets of a community, including health and healthcare, business, criminal justice, and academics from kindergarten through college. And AHA Process works to address the root causes of economic poverty and to support individuals as they build resources, as well as to achieve a sustainable community where we can all live well. So that's kind of the mission statement of AHA Process. A few years ago is when I encountered some of the concepts that AHA Process has written about, and I was actually at an English teaching conference. And the presenter at that conference discussed how our knowledge of the different registers of language can impact how we teach writing. And you'll hear more about that in the presentation, so I won't tell you more now. But needless to say, I was not just intrigued by the concepts, but I felt like I was hearing language that was describing an experience that I've been having for years but couldn't wrap my words around. I was intrigued, so I did a little research, and I quickly discovered that many of those concepts are presented in the Bridges Out of Poverty materials, and that those concepts describe what I see and what I won't be surprised to find out that many of you probably also see in our work with our students. I also discovered that these materials are also being used widely with significant impact nationally, right here in Knoxville, and even around the world. What are some of the other countries where they're, I know I've seen Australia.
Australia comes to mind.
Yeah.
Do you remember? It's like several.
It is
Four other countries. Okay, so it is being used internationally. But what I think is remarkable is that Knoxville's very own Compassion Coalition organization, which is a 501c3 nonprofit agency. I know nothing about what those numbers mean, but it was founded in 2000. And Compassion Coalition has been offering the Bridges Out of Poverty workshops, similar to what you're going to experience today, all over our area for quite some time. Time constraints won't allow. I want to tell you a little bit about Compassion Coalition. I don't have enough time to tell you everything that they do, but I will say that they impact our community in countless and meaningful ways. Compassion Coalition functions as a literal safety net, and I have for hundreds, but I think it's probably thousands, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. You hardly get a number on that.
Yeah, the most vulnerable people in our city. Single parents, low-income working families, the elderly, people who don't have a place to live. Compassion Coalition operates a clearinghouse of which Pellissippi State is now a part, and that clearinghouse connects individuals in need, including people on our campuses, with various local businesses, agencies, and faith-based organizations that are equipped to assist those individuals in significant ways. And one of the really neat things that Compassion Coalition has done is to work with Stephanie Davis, who's here with us today. If you haven't met Stephanie, I hope you'll take an opportunity to do that. She's a student at Pellissippi State, and if you've seen the signs around campus for the Scholarship for Homeless Students, that is Stephanie's. That was a class project that has turned into a real life service to our students right here at Pellissippi. And she wrote the paper, but now she's actually doing the action, not for course credit, and is impacting the quality of life of our students.
So who's Stephanie?
Stephanie's right here.
Hello, Stephanie.
And she's actually next week at some point going to give us a little presentation about that, and we're actually going to pass a bucket because we need funds for the scholarship for homeless students. Okay. At any rate, our facilitators today are two Compassion Coalition staff members. One is Gina Whitmore, and Gina is the director at Compassion Coalition of their clearinghouse, and I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about that because I won't pretend to understand everything that she does. And then also is Carolyn Hansen, who also works in the clearinghouse. And Gina and another one of their colleagues, Jessica Bockengill, came and did a presentation this summer for a few faculty and staff that was very well received, which is why it has come back and why they're here again today. And I'm delighted to have you here, Gina, and then also Carolyn, I'm so glad you get to be here.
Glad to be here.
So these are the folks that are doing these presentations all over the community. We all know ours is a campus filled with students, and our students possess tremendous capability, and they're counting on our faculty and staff to help them take steps toward their academic and life goals. And I would say Pellissippi is literally providing a path by which many in our community can move towards fulfilling their potential, but as we know, many of our students, and I would say faculty too, also struggle to make progress toward those goals because of the challenges that exist in other parts of their lives. So the fact that all of us are here today, I would say is just one evidence of how we're committed to coming alongside our students in meaningful ways. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can learn more of this information together, and then how we can take it back to our classrooms and our offices and our colleagues and the people that we work with and live with, and really do some good things. And just, I didn't plan this, but one of the things that I thought it might be neat to share in light of Bill Brewer's passing this week is that his wife, Sharon, actually attended a Bridges Out of Poverty workshop at their church in downtown Knoxville a few months ago. And I bumped into him on campus, it was about 2 or 3 months ago, and he said she asked him to attend that workshop with him, and he said it impacted him the very same way that it impacted me, that he just thought the material was so relevant and pertinent and timely for what we do here at the college. And so I have to think that he would be really excited to see all of you here today. So I want to thank y'all for being here, and I'm done talking, I promise.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having us here. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and to share with you. I know we had an overview last week. Were any of you at that? Two. Okay, 2 were there. Okay, so this is the in-depth training. I also want to introduce Rusty. We mentioned Rusty Graham is here with our AmeriCorps Vista program too. Yeah, Bridges is a really interesting concept. Gina and I are both social workers by background, and we've been social workers for a long time. I won't say how many years. But once you've been in a profession for a long time, you think you're pretty adept and pretty much know what's going on in it, and you understand, with us, we thought we understood poverty, and, I felt like I had a very small, non-judgmental attitude towards people in poverty that were different than I was. When we went through the Bridges training, my mind was sort of blown away because I felt like I was going to Bridges training to be a trainer to, get the certification. When I went in there, I found out that I was learning not just about poverty, but about myself and about my perspectives and my attitudes that were there, but I wasn't really realizing how they were impacting my work with people in poverty. So I figured out that my non-judgmental attitude was really smaller than I had hoped, and my knowledge was, my non-judgmental attitude was not as large as I wanted, and my knowledge of poverty was smaller. So Bridges sort of expanded my thinking and changed the way I think. So I hope you'll find these concepts very interesting. I want to go through just a little bit of the packet. I've got a packet with you just to tell you what's in there quickly. There's information in there about Compassion Coalition, and we're not able to have time to go through all of that, but there's a brochure that tells a little bit more about us. And if you're interested in coming by our office, we have something called Taking It to the Streets. And this is a 1-hour come lunch and learn about Compassion Coalition where you meet the staff and hear about the programs. So I'd love to invite each one of you to come to that if you would like to. We also have a training opportunities for 2015, which lists not only the Bridges training, but the frontline training, which we provide for churches. And I want to mention, we do have an electronic bulletin board that goes out on Monday afternoon. And on that, it lists all of our training. It lists local resources and it lists local needs. So sometimes we will put a particular need on that and somebody in the community will match that need. We've had Pell City students on it before for a book or tuition or something like that, and somebody in the community has stepped up to do that. It goes out to thousands of people. So if you want to sign up to receive the Compassion Coalition Bulletin Board, if you complete this card and just leave it, at the front desk, we will put you on our listserv for that. So Bridges Out of Poverty, we have been doing it since 2011, I believe it is. And last number I heard that we had trained 1,000 people in the community in Bridges. And we've been to different venues. Compassion Coalition's mission is to work with the churches interdenominationally, as Ann said, in the city, to move them from the pews into the city to serve poverty. But we have gone to Children's Hospital twice. We have been to CAC, Knox County Community Action Committee, which is a social service agency, and we've been to the Homeless Coalition. So the training, applies in all different venues. So we're really excited to be here, as well.
I know UT's Counseling Center also did a Bridges Out of Poverty training. You
Yeah,
also
they
apply
did.
that training, or
Yeah,
I
it was
think yeah.
So we've been moving in different venues. So Bridges is geared towards the middle class mindset. So it's geared towards middle class individuals in churches, agencies, institutions, or what have you. There's a second component of this Bridges that I want to share with you, and it's geared towards the people in poverty, and it's called Getting Ahead in a Just Getting By World. And this is a course that's going to examine some of the same concepts that we're going to be looking at today, but it's done in a tabletop setting where 14 individuals or so are sitting around the table going through and investigating this book to see what's meaningful for them. They're looking at the traps of poverty, what's kept them in the situation they're in, and what steps do they need to make to try to come up with a plan of action to move ahead in their lives. And it's been a pretty phenomenal experience. Gina and I have facilitated, and Rusty have facilitated these classes, and we've got over 100 graduates, I don't know the exact number, but close to that, that have gone through. Is it what? 99, okay. I want that 100 on there.
Yeah.
And this is a really wonderful class. So this class removes barriers. It's really hard if you're dealing with crisis all the time to be able to come to a 16-session course. You know how hard it is to work out these 8 hours, these 2 weeks out of your schedule, but somebody that's dealing with issues that are very critical daily, such as food, shelter, housing, to sit back and come into a learning environment is not easy. So we remove barriers by providing them a meal, childcare, transportation, and they're paid a stipend to attend. Because the knowledge they bring to us about their community and what the actual experience of poverty is like is invaluable. So they are, given a stipend to come. So I wanted to tell you about that. You'll hear us during the training referring to Getting Ahead, and so that's what we're talking about. And we'll be telling you more about that, as we go along. Right now we have 2 classes, one starting Sunday and one starting the first week of April, I believe. And you have 15 in your class, and we're going to have 12 in ours. And we are doing these at different locations, ministries and churches across the, across the area. So they've been very excited. So it's just neat to have it coming from 2 perspectives. And one of the components of Getting Ahead is that you would bring allies or mentors from people like you that have gone through Bridges to come alongside those that have gone through Getting Ahead and walk with them as they work on their goals. So that's the next component of this, that we're in the process of working on and developing these allies.
And
so
you do have, my understanding is that there are some Getting Ahead graduates who
yes.
One of the decisions or the next steps after the Getting Ahead workshop is to come to a community college, and you have some who
Yes,
tell us
yes.
about.
Absolutely. Do you know that number, Rusty? We know the number that actually have
Right.
decided
Yes.
to enroll in
Yes.
school. After.
Right.
We've had really good outcomes. There's been individuals that have been homeless, that have found housing, people that have moved up in job, people that just feel better about their life and report feeling less depressed and isolated. So we've seen lots of movement, because this opens up their minds as well and gives them tools in their tool belt that they can use, and it gives them networking with people they wouldn't normally meet to try to help them with their goals. So it's a pretty exciting thing. Okay, all right, and on the left side of your packet too, I just want to point out we do have a cost of poverty experience coming up, and this is on March 31st. And this, I don't know, has anybody ever been to a poverty experience before? Simulation? Okay. So this is a large group, and you'll come in and be assigned as a family in poverty. There'll be resources around the area, and you'll be given problems and limited resources, and you have to navigate the rules and expectations of how to access resources and how to maintain some stability And it's quite interesting. If you haven't gone through it, I would recommend that to you, to get a feel for what being in poverty is actually like. Everyone that came to this last time actually took on their roles quite well. I was running a homeless shelter, so I encourage you to come to that as well. And then on the right side of your package, you've got your PowerPoints, and they look like that. The first one is on the top there for you. And I wanted to point out, we do have a reading module. It's not, you've got a different book than we have this based on, but you can see what we're going to cover for today. This is like a little agenda for us for today. We're going to be looking at mental models today, our first thing. Then we're going to go through causes of poverty, key points, and hidden rules. So we're getting into hidden rules. So that's our agenda, our map for today, as we go through. And we will work on trying to get some page numbers for you in the book that you have. And then further on in this reading list, it gives you other books that pertain to some of the topics that we're covering, and some other books that are just very good on poverty, and you might want to explore those. If you go to the 4th page, it's listed by the topic. For instance, today we're doing mental models. There's some additional reading on mental models if you want to pursue reading a little more in depth in those areas. So that's there for you. Okay. All right, we're going to dive in. And you will, in just a minute, need your first 2 handouts, which are going to look like this and say social and economic class. We're going to talk about that. So the driving force of Bridges is that change is possible with the development of relationships of mutual respect. So, it's not real popular to talk about what class are you in, right? That's sort of socially, we don't want to do that, right? We're in this class or that class or whatever. But today we're not talking about social class, because social class involves climbing the ladder. Where are you compared to your neighbor? Are you keeping up with the Joneses? That kind of thing. We're looking at economic class, which is primarily focusing on stability of the environment, and we're looking at it with respect for those that we're in relationship with, and with a non-judgmental attitude. And the other thing we're comparing is what choices and resources are available to one class that may not be available at all to another. So we're going to be examining that today. So somebody in poverty, what Bridges wants to do is build future story. Sometimes the future story, the person's future story, has been robbed, or they don't even have one, or it's not been developed because of the experience they're living in. They're dealing with concrete needs every day, to the point where they can't focus on anything else. So we call this the tyranny of the moment. And we have it up here. And the tyranny of the moment is the need to act overwhelms any willingness people have to learn. How easy is it to learn when you're in crisis? It's not. We can't, right? And if you're staying there almost all the time in your life, it's really hard to make any change. So I want to just read the last paragraph on this page, and I promise that's the last time I'll read to you today, because it just sort of sums up the Bridges philosophy and give you an idea about that. This work focuses on how a person can get to the point of having a future story, creating choices, and developing his or her own power. Just as importantly, this assists institutions and communities in avoiding the mindset that poverty is both inevitable and perpetual. It helps individuals and institutions and communities move towards ending the powerless of the mindset that says poverty will always be with us. It is our contention that this change is possible with the development of relationships and mutual respect, which also can be called social coherence. So that's a good summary of it. Okay, we're going to do our little movie, a little introduction.
The arrow at the bottom.
Yeah. And that's where
My mouse is terrible.
your mouse is
It
your
is
mouse
really
is funny. So in this little movie, you're going to see educators. You're going to see people that actually went through Getting Ahead and now have become Getting Ahead facilitators and other in other positions there.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Poverty is everybody's business in the community, and that you can't have a sustainable.
We've been doing the same thing for the same reasons for a long time, and we haven't been getting any different results.
If you're a business, if you're a government, if you're a downtown improvement district, if you're a hospital, if you hope to be successful with any efforts, you've got to know the culture that you're working with.
I think that Bridges works in communities because it does a couple of things uniquely. One of those things is that it brings people from all economic classes to the table, to the decision-making table. And people's voices are actually heard.
This isn't a program. It's a framework. The constructs can virtually address every issue that come up.
The most valuable practice is the paradigm shift to seeing individuals as strong, not as wrong.
It is much more about brokering services to be able to get people out of poverty and engaging the community to end poverty.
So the way we engage people who are in poverty is to use Getting Ahead. It's a workbook that people do in groups of 10 or 12, facilitator. And they investigate together the impact that poverty's had on them and their community.
The Getting Ahead program, I call it the high octane fuel in the tank. It is the piece that will drive this forward.
As people begin to move out of poverty and they begin to build their resources, they encounter barriers. And when they encounter barriers, then the middle class steering committee that includes people in poverty begin to knock those barriers over.
Since completing Getting Ahead, the thing that is most different for me is that I now have people I can depend on. I have role models, and I have friends, I have mentors, and they help give me the strength and courage I need to continue in my path to self-sufficiency.
I had a bad criminal past. I was homeless. I'm no longer homeless. I've gotten a job. My stability's a lot better. I have gained custody of one of my children, my oldest boy, so he's living with me now, and everything's been going great since.
The end goal is sustainability. And then the resources that Bridges has, those become the stepping stones to sustainability. It's measurable, it has very clear paradigms, it's well researched.
Our hospital, Fletcher Allen Healthcare, is the largest employer in the state of Vermont. Within their environmental services department, which is about 200 employees, they had a 40% annual turnover rate, and approximately 50% of that was happening in the first 90 days. As a result of participating in Working Bridges and other strategies that they've been trying out, they have seen a 50% improvement in the turnover rate in that department and a 50% improvement in the unscheduled absences of employees.
Although the community colleges educate over half of all students who go to school in this country, and most under-resourced students do go through community colleges, we still have retention rates and graduation rates that need to be greatly improved. The Bridges concepts, in my opinion, is very much the answer to that.
So applying the Bridges concepts and Ruby Payne's ideas in the higher education setting is really very revolutionary.
My staff has been trained in Bridges, and I think that it affects our productivity in our office. I've seen those numbers increase. I've seen decreases in complaints or frustrations with our court, and I do believe that a lot of that comes from Bridges.
For me, when I learned about Bridges, there's really wonderful components about the language differences, the differences of class, the resources of people in poverty. Understanding all those components, I was going, yes, it was an aha moment.
The benefits of using Bridges is that not just abstractly thinking and philosophizing about this work, it quickly boils down to the concrete. So what are we going to do? Not just how are we going to better understand. It includes that, but at some point you're drawn to the point of urgency that you then must act on it. And I really see that there is some difference and some power in this work because
It allows us to have a set of powerful concepts that everybody gets. So whether you're from wealth, middle class, or from poverty, everybody has access to that.
The one thing that I really want people to leave with is that unless we're intentional, conscious, and deliberate about this work, and always being reflective and examining what we're doing, we're going to continue to get the same stuff. And if you have bridges, that idea of never being able to go back and see things the same way, it means it's the catalyst to keep us moving forward, and that will help everyone. And that's the thing that I think is invaluable about this work.
Sort of interesting once you do go through bridges, it does sort of change the way you think about everything. So I do want to warn you about that. When you get through this class, you'll be fully bridgified. That's sort of the term that we use. Okay, so in going through bridges, this is a very significant statement that we sort of our motto, I guess. No significant learning occurs without a significant relationship. You know, a lot of times that is important in our lives on all kinds of journeys that we're on. But I want to just talk for a minute about what causes somebody to leave poverty. What are the four main reasons somebody will leave? So I'm going to just mention those to you. One, it may be too painful to stay where you are. And a lot of the people that come to the Getting Ahead class say they're tired of being stuck. And we ask them, are you tired of just going round and around, and do you want to move up in your life? And they get that, and they feel that, and want to do something different. Another one is that there's a vision or a goal of something they want to accomplish. A vision or a goal. So that could be an educational goal. It could be getting into a safer environment for your children. Could be a lot of things that motivate you for that. And then third, a key relationship. Knowing someone that goes the extra mile to care about you as you're working on your goal. And I think in an educational setting that is absolutely true, to have a teacher or a guidance counselor or someone to give that encouragement to someone who's struggling and trying to make those educational goals and accomplish them. And then the fourth one, you may have a special talent or skill that just gets you out of your poverty environment. So I think this is very important in thinking about helping our people we're working with to build resources to move towards stability. So we're going to keep that in our mind as we're going through. And I want to say too, and we'll probably say this several times throughout the training, we're going to be talking about class. We're going to be talking about poverty, middle class, and wealth. You'll hear that throughout the whole training. But I want to ask you a question. I know you know the answer to it. What's the difference between a pattern and a stereotype? You guys have all the answers. So are we talking about patterns or stereotypes in bridges? We're talking about patterns. Okay, about patterns. So stereotype is when you apply that pattern to an individual. So although we're going to be talking about poverty, middle class, and wealth, the things that you hear, that doesn't mean that's true. The patterns that have been observed and that are fairly dominant, it doesn't mean it's true for every individual or student that you're working with. You'll have these patterns in your mind as you learn them through this training, but you sit with your person, your student, and let them tell you where they're at. You just won't be surprised if you see, behavior or hear about something, you'll understand where it's coming from. So let the person help you tell you where they're at. There is one person that you can stereotype all you want today. That's yourself. You can put yourself in right, that's right. You can put yourself in any box that you would like to there. Okay. Okay. So we're going to be talking about mental models. They are internal pictures of how the world works. We're going to be talking about that today. They exist below our awareness. We have mental models going on in our head about everything. We're going to be looking at this in depth. They're theories in use that often we haven't really taken out from our head. We just sort of believe things. We're not even sure what's pushing our belief. They determine how we act. They can help or interfere with learning. So as we start going through some of our material today, we just ask that you take your mental models of poverty, assumptions that you may have, and just set them over on a shelf, because it's hard to add new learning if we're still clinging to what we had coming in, and then you can figure out what you want to believe or not. We want to suspend our mental models. As we're going through this material too, this is a mental model, a depiction of how you can apply this material. You can look at this material through the lens of working with an individual. So if you're someone that's working directly with students, you may say, okay, I'm gonna take what I learned today and apply it to that setting. Or you may be at a managerial level and you may be looking at your institution and how the institution can better change policies and procedures to work with under-resourced students. So you can view it from that lens. You can also view it from the community planning board. If you sit on a planning board, you know, regarding poverty or issues or needs in our community, you can take this material and view it from the community lens. So you can use this material on lots of different levels. And the Bridges has a concept. You notice there's 3 chairs at the table. So who's at the planning board? You've got 3 people. We'll talk about Fred. You've got Fred from poverty, Fred from middle class, and Fred from wealth. If you don't have people from all socioeconomic groups at the planning board, how are you going to solve community problems? Because you don't have all the perspective that you need to address those problems. Who usually does all the boards, the planning in our community? Poverty, middle class, or wealth? Who does all the setting everything up? Middle class, we got it all figured out, right? We're going to decide on everything. We may have some folks from wealth there to help us with funding, but do we have someone from poverty sitting on our boards as we're trying to examine a problem? So if you're working with under-resourced students, it might be something to consider, having some of them sitting on your boards trying to plan to meet those needs of under-resourced students. So overarching all of that is policy. So using the Bridges material at all these different lenses can affect and change policy, which is, you know, hard to move or hard to change in a lot of different entities. So that's just a little depiction of how the material can be used. And I do have one more handout I just want to point your attention to, and it's it was attached to your first handout. And it looks like this. It's called Application of the Bridges Concepts, and you can just have that for your information. We're not going to go over it, but it does list specifically some areas that have used the Bridges concepts with good results, and one of them is manufacturing company. Of course, you've got education, healthcare, and what have you, so I didn't want to point that out too. Okay, we're going to go back to working on mental models. And what we're going to do today in our mental model work, we're going to create mental models of middle class and poverty and take a look at wealth as well and see how they're different and see how they're the same. And as we did just a few minutes ago, these are pictures in our head. So think about, let's just think about mental models, some easy ones. Have you ever traveled somewhere? I know I was going to the beach a year or two ago, and it was April, and in my head, I was sick of winter, and I was going to be in a warm environment, right? The beach is sunny. And I got over to the East Coast, and it was freezing. So my mental model was not quite accurate. Let's think about another one. Have you anybody had a grandmother or a great-grandmother, and you're still using all the rubber bands she saved? Anybody doing that? I know it took us months to clean out my grandmother's garage. Now, where did that come from? What mental model did she have in her head? And why was my grandmother saving twisty ties and potato bags and everything?
Depression.
Depression. She never moved past the depression. This was in the 80s. Now, did she need to save all of that to survive? No, she didn't. But it was there. But she had that mental model that you don't waste anything, that you have got to keep everything. Let's look at children. So children, when they're little, they look up to their parents. They can do no wrong, right? Parents are God. They look up to Him. And what happens when they become 13?
Parents suddenly get stupid.
Yes, they suddenly lose all the intelligence they ever had. So the child's mental model of their parent completely changes. So
That impacts the parent's mental model as well.
Yes,
yes.
Of the child. Yeah, that child you loved and adored. You're like, who are they? Where did they come from? Oh.
Not that I know anything about it.
No. Okay, so we're gonna pick your brains a little bit, and we're starting with the mental model of middle class. So I want to know how you spend your time. What do you do in the course of your week, month, year? What do you do every day? What are some of the things you do, activities? Work. Okay, work. Okay.
Watch the news on TV.
News. Okay, you pay attention to the news. Keep up with what's going on.
Clean the house.
Housework. Oh, well, we don't like that one. Okay. Last time I put it was.
Take care of your kids.
Child care. Gotta take care of your children, right? Okay.
I believe we have one over here. What?
Oh, just commuting.
Just commuting, the travel time, that's, I mean, we spend our life driving, don't we? Just commuting everywhere. Adding up all those hours, it would be crazy. Anybody else, you have one?
Hobby?
Actually, I didn't. They were doing jumping jacks and
Oh.
You're exercise.
Okay.
Exercise. Yeah, that's it, exercise.
Okay.
Sleep.
You do what?
Sleep.
Sleep, oh, people do sleep, okay.
Sorry, I think about that.
Hobbies?
Hobbies, okay, we have time for hobbies. We enjoy relaxing after we've worked, right?
Money for hobbies.
What?
Takes money for hobbies.
Takes money for hobbies, oh, okay.
Shopping?
Oh, thank you. If I go through a training and somebody doesn't say shopping, I feel like, you know.
Well, I was thinking grocery shopping, you know.
Oh, grocery shopping, no, we need relaxation shopping, at least women do.
Social media.
What?
Social media.
Social media, how much time do you spend on that? Gotta stay connected.
Too much.
Too much? We won't ask that.
Reading?
Reading, okay. So, are you reading for education or pleasure?
Yes.
Both? Okay.
Traveling.
You do what?
Cooking.
Cooking. I've got people that are cooking, awesome. It takes time.
Couch potato TV.
All right, relaxation. We've got to relax, right? Veg out, no matter minds.
taking children to their extracurricular activities.
Okay, children's activities. That is a full-time job, isn't it? Running everybody in different directions. There's a period of life where they're very busy and they're not driving. So.
A lot of people really value volunteerism.
Volunteerism, okay. Volunteering at your favorite place.
Church.
Church, okay.
Travel.
Travel. Are you going on vacation? Vacations in this mix? Okay.
Fun traveling.
Do what?
Fun to travel.
Fun, okay. Gotta get away, right? Okay, well that's a pretty good list. Anybody else have anything that you do?
I'm back at school, so I do a lot of homework. But
Oh, you do a lot of homework?
But I think even people who aren't in this group probably do things like this where you're doing professional development.
Okay,
Yeah.
so homework, and you're all here today, right? So you're taking classes on one level or another. Is our stand deciding to collapse? It might. Is it all right? Okay. Okay, that's a pretty good list. Covers quite a bit of activities that you may do. Okay, so we're gonna look at the mental model for middle class. And as you look at the word in the middle, if I ask you, once you meet somebody and you exchange pleasantries and what have you, what's the first question you probably ask them?
What do you do?
What do you do? So middle class has a driving force or a motivating push towards achievement, right? Looking at, what do we do? Middle class maybe, your children are young, you're working on, getting them grown, getting them in the best schools, and you've got to be saving for college before they get born. Then you get them in the best colleges, and then they grow up and have a career of their own, and they're working and married, and finally you retire, and and that's it. It's a constant wheel of achievement, right? So here's some of the things on here, and I think many of those are what you mentioned. Childcare, children's activities. Let's see if there's anything on here that you all did not mention.
Mental health.
Oh, health, chemical dependency, and mental health. Are those issues for the middle class? Can be, right? Yeah, definitely. Political action, health prevention, we pretty much retirement planning, career planning. So you can see this looks fairly typical of a middle class, person. So if you look at this, this mental model, this is a pictorial graph of middle class. What is the stability factor here? Like if you have a problem in middle class, if your car breaks down, what happens? What do you do if your car breaks down?
Get it repaired.
Get it repaired? Do you call
somebody?
Call AAA.
AAA. Call AAA, right? Okay. And does that cause you to lose your job if your car breaks down or your housing? So the stability is pretty high in middle class. One problem does not necessarily lead to another one because there's enough resources there to stabilize when you do have a problem. You've got something you can pull out of your wallet, right? Credit card with high limits, and you can take care of any problem. If your car breaks down, you can go rent a car, use your second car or your third car, while your other one's getting fixed. So it's a level of stability. Problems are isolated. Okay, let's look at interactions with different entities from the middle class. Is the interaction with the police from the middle class positive or negative?
Positive.
Usually positive, okay. Did you feel safer if you're not positive?
I don't know. I think that it could be either or.
Could be either
I
or.
don't think that it.
If the blue lights are behind you, it's not positive, is
Yeah.
it? It's a little nerve-wracking and your heart rate's going up, so it could be positive or negative. But generally, if you're not speeding, you probably don't fear the police, right? And if you're in an environment and you're not sure if you're safe or not, and you see a policeman come, do you feel safer? A little bit safer. And then what about the interaction with church? How does a middle-class person interact with church? Going there to worship and to fellowship and have a sense of community? Okay. And then what about social services?
Really don't have a lot of interaction with social services sometimes.
Okay. And on what level might you have interaction with an agency or a ministry or something? What might you be doing there?
Volunteering.
Volunteering, participating, okay. And then with schools, if you're a parent, do you feel that you have the ability or the power to go in and talk to your children's teachers? Do you feel like you're comfortable with the institution? And is that going to be potentially a positive interaction? Or you feel like you have some control over it? Or ability to communicate, so that may be positive. Okay, we're going to also take a look at businesses that may be around a middle class neighborhood. So, you know, got the typical bookstores, banks, fitness centers, coffee shops, upscale, you know, restaurants maybe. Okay.
We call that Generica at our house.
Generica, really?
Old Navy, Starbucks,
Yeah. Okay. All right, awesome.
And every interstate exit.
Okay, so we're gonna look at now we're gonna move into poverty. See if I can get my little thing to stand up here. And you can come and hold it. Since my stand is.
It's the easel, yeah, that leg
I
on
think
the
that leg
inside.
needs to go off. Might be a little, we'll flip this over. Okay, so we're gonna whoops, you guys hold it. I'm getting away from it because it keeps falling.
Would it be easier for you to write on the whiteboard? I think there's a
Can you
marker
see it
up there.
though? I'm wondering if you can see it from over there. I can.
If you right under the tyranny of your helmet, you probably.
Okay.
What if you turn it on its side? You know, I mean, would it hold better if you turn it on its side?
Turn it on its side.
Oh yeah, I can write sideways.
But then you won't have to if you turn it on its side.
Which is more visible? Is this more visible?
It's not as stable.
Thought.
We'll call that
How about
the,
that?
you know, the poverty.
Poverty.
Yeah.
Okay.
If one leg falls, the whole thing's going.
Okay, very good, and that's exactly where we're going. So we're going to think about Denise, and Denise grew up in poverty. She's a single mom, and she has 2 kids, aged 9 and 6. How does she spend her time dealing with her 2 children in her life? How might she spend her time?
Work.
Okay, she might work.
Stressed out. I'm sure.
Stressed out. Okay.
When I say work, I mean desperate to work.
Desperate to work. Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
She spends a lot of time seeking assistance from social services.
Okay, so you might call that agency time. And is that a time-consuming activity? Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I would say worry about money and where it's coming from,
Okay.
have it, can we put food on the table?
Okay, worried about money, food, and other items. What else are issues in her life?
Healthcare.
Childcare. Does she have childcare?
If she's been able to keep up with the agency.
Oh, so this might depend on this. So if she hasn't met all the criteria, and the model
And it
can
also
change that.
depends
Does
on
eight-
work.
Yeah?
She
Yeah,
can't-
oh, okay, so this is related to this and related to this. Okay, so that's a little bit of a balancing thing because the agency may have criteria for change and she may or may not be meeting that. So she
And
may not
mom.
have free childcare, and what happens if it's not free?
Mom takes care of the kids, and neighbors take care of the kids.
Right, right. If she has no childcare, and then what happens to this? Okay, what else does she do? Just Denise.
I don't know how to say this, but there's no fun. There's hardly any fun in life.
Okay. No fun or limited fun, no relaxation maybe. Can't spell, sorry. Okay.
It's sometimes possible, but it's accompanied with denial, and so it's never
you've got to set aside all of this stress to go out and have fun, or maybe spend some money to have fun that you shouldn't spend maybe because you're so stressed. Okay.
All the housework.
Housework? Denise is doing housework too? All the homework and discipline, everything is on her shoulders.
Being really concerned about safety for herself and children.
Safety? Okay.
What about like the environment, the overall environment, like and the exposure?
Okay.
She may be worried about what her kids are seeing, constant trips to the agencies, things like that.
Okay, so her kids may be exposed to things in the environment that are not positive, and the mother may be actually concerned about that.
Transportation.
Transportation. Okay, anything else?
Relationships.
Relationships, okay.
Friends.
You're trying to maintain relationship base?
Someone said healthcare.
Healthcare, okay, that may be an issue. The lack of it, right?
Housing.
Housing. You guys are good. Anybody have anything else? You did great, really good. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at the mental model of poverty. You guys covered just about all of it. See if there's anything on here that you didn't cover. Entertainment, safety, jobs, criminal justice system. Might she be dealing with that? Possibly. Okay, let's just look at this quickly regarding stability. So, okay, her car is going to go out. She's going to, because is it a good car? No, she got it on Clinton Highway. Okay, twice as much as it was worth, it's falling apart. So when her car goes out, who does she call?
Her uncle, her brother.
You're right, she calls Uncle Ray. She doesn't call AAA, calls Uncle Ray, right? So you notice in the middle, there's a word called relationships. Now what was the driving force in middle class? Achievement. So the driving force in poverty is relationships. Because how is she going to problem solve throughout all of this? She doesn't have the resource base to stabilize the problem. So when one problem happens, this transportation problem, could that lead to homelessness? Yeah, it could. She loses her transportation, loses her job, loses her Section 8 housing because the lights have been cut off, and then she and her child could be homeless. It can cascade down fairly fast. So the stability in this mental model, you know, is not potentially good. It's one step away from a problem. So relationships are very important. So if she has her support system that will come to her aid, she helps them, they help her, then she can get by, you know, better in her
But if she has no support system.
If she has
if
no
Uncle Ray is an alcoholic.
Exactly. Yeah, Uncle
Then
Ray
what
may
does she
have
do?
issues. Uncle Ray may have issues as well. And this is actually, the case I just mentioned is actually a real case. We had a lady that had no support system at all. Car was wrecked. Lights were getting cut off. Almost lost her voucher. Worried about losing her grandson. It happens. People can be, you know, very isolated without the strong, you know, relationship base. What do you see on here that was on the middle class one?
Health, chemical dependence.
Okay, so you've got 3 here that are still there. That can affect someone in poverty, you know, as well. And then when you look at interactions that we did with the middle class, what might be the interactions with police? Positive, negative, negative. Okay, we got a thumbs down in the back. I mean, you know, it could go either way too, but might be a little bit more.
You wonder even like the policeman's attitude
Towards
toward
the person, maybe in a public housing, you know, project. You know, there's.
that they're only human too.
Right, exactly, right. So there could be, you know, shooting in the housing development, and do you go talk to the police or view them as a good thing coming in? No, you don't go talk to them. Okay, what about church? What might your interactions be with churches in the area?
Need-based, maybe?
Could be need-based. You could be going there for food pantry, clothing. You may be going there to worship and find community just like everyone else as well. But if you need financial assistance, you might be calling, you know, churches to help, because that is, you know, part of your way, you know, to get by. What about social services? Sure.
I was just gonna say, with church in this area, especially though with relationships, a lot of my students, even who are living in very unstable conditions and in poverty themselves, still volunteer with their churches and form a lot of those meaningful relationships there where they are helping each other.
Awesome.
And trying to give back even when they're in that situation.
That
So
is
I think
awesome.
the church one is really complicated.
It is complicated and it's multifaceted, isn't it? It's not all positive or negative. But the added component would be everything middle class does with the component of need-based as well. So yeah. And of course, the movement now is to try to have, instead of just giving away from churches, is to have people come in and do a food co-op and be part of that and have ownership. A sharing shop, instead of giving clothes, they come in and bring clothes and give them and work and volunteer. Those are some concepts there. What about businesses in poverty neighborhoods? Are they different? You might have a pawn shop, liquor stores could be in both, little corner store, rent to own. Come off of 640 onto Broadway and count how many of these you see in a block. I challenge you to do that. There's a lot of them.
If you get on Magnolia, a lot of that's already shut down.
They're shut down.
Walgreens left, most of the fast food is
Walgreens
left.
It did.
I didn't know
recently.
that. Oh my goodness, yeah, and it wasn't the grocery store, Kroger potentially going out? I mean, I've heard rumblings about that.
I don't think it has.
So they're leaving instead of coming.
There's one that you have, that is not there.
Okay.
That I just saw in the news about a month ago.
Yeah.
It's not a critique of your presentation.
Yeah.
But
No, this is great.
on
We
the
like this.
news, those, what do they call them?
Title
The
IX.
payday advance
Payday
places.
advance. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there was a boutique that wanted to keep, kind of more of a sophisticated allure, but she was surrounded
By
payday
payday
advance
Title
places.
Max, all that.
And
yeah.
she was
Yeah.
like, they're leaving the payday advance, but then they might come to my boutique.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
she didn't want that element of people
Right.
there, which I was like, okay, money, but
Right.
her attitude was, it's making, I'm trying to have this fancy place, but it makes us look lower class.
Exactly, so she didn't like it.
And yeah, so
She's
they're
get
trying
them out.
to, Knoxville's actually trying to make an initiative to limit how many payday advance
I
places
saw that on the
can
news
be in a
last
square
night at
footage.
11. It was on
Yeah.
11 on Channel 10 last night if y'all were watching it. And Gina's going to talk about that more a little bit later, but it was very, very good. So this sort of tells folks the why of poverty. Why is there all this instability and cascade effect?
Can I just point one thing out?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, no, jump in.
Just one of the things that was, I think, really surprising to me, even though I have worked with individuals in need for so long, was just how long everything takes.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to point out with the transportation, it's not just your car breaking down, but if you ride the bus in the city, it can take you hours just to get to one job interview. And so that can become very, very frustrating. With agency time, you may go over here, and then they say, no, you have to go over here first. And then on top of that, when
And
you
you
have
gotta pay each time.
yes,
Because you're on the bus.
Exactly.
The bus won't even come to this campus, there is no bus.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
Yeah,
Not
it,
to Hardin
bus
Valley.
breaks down,
Yeah.
not to Hardin Valley.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you can imagine how much longer things take. And I can remember working with a case, Barbara Disney and I from CAC were working on a case, and we were very frustrated with this young single mom who all she had was one doctor's appointment to get to that week, so she couldn't do anything else. This helped me I remember being frustrated and thinking, but this really helped me to realize that, just one appointment can be very overwhelming because you're trying to get the transportation for that, and one thing is happening at the other place. You have to worry about the food for today, and this one appointment can be so overwhelming. So.
And two, we say, well, the bus is only $1.50, but if you have to transfer and change, it can run you about $4 a day.
Yeah.
And when you're
Sure.
in poverty, $4 is
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That is a whole
It's a
lot.
lot. So the timing thing is very difficult.
You apply it to our students. Some of our students do rely on public transportation, particularly at site campuses. Some of our faculty rely on public transportation.
One of the biggest problems we have at Magnolia is that students cannot get to this campus.
Right.
Because there's not a bus.
So frustrating. And it seems like we could lobby for something.
Are they working on that?
Yeah, are they working on that? We want to know.
I don't know the latest.
They talk to CAT,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a big cost.
Yeah.
Because of their team, a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
We don't have that one.
So again, a community problem that needs to be solved, right? Definitely.
But we do offer, there's a way for us to help our students who can use that system, that bus system, at the site campuses to get some discounted bus passes. So if you run into a student that has that kind of need, please let your student success coordinator in the department or on your campus
problem with
Yes.
that though at Magnolia.
That's next.
It's $130
And
up
they
front.
can't use financial aid.
And they've got $10 in their pocket and it has to
Right.
last a month.
So that is a huge barrier
I
for
think
students
still,
being
I think
successful.
still let your student success coordinator know.
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, sometimes that needs to be done.
So just really quickly, what time frame is this mental model? I'm sure it's past, present, or future. What time frame? Now. This is present. What time frame was the middle class? Future. Future. Planning. But this is now, you know, solving problems. She's passing out a mental model that was actually done by one of our Getting Ahead graduates. And she, you know, we asked them to do the same exercise. And so this is a local Knoxville mental model of poverty. And you see on there she is a single mom. And she's got 4 boys. She's got a heart drawn around that. But look at her gas tank. It's on empty on the left, far left. And then she's got money, hard to survive, just does not have enough cash. How to find employment. This is her issue. And her support system, she drew people in there and crossed them out. No support system or limited. Now luckily she is in a mentoring program and doing quite well. And then she's in the middle of all these problems with question marks over her head. I thought this was just excellent. She gave us permission to share.
Can I just share my one?
Yes,
piece here?
share the
Because
names.
it was a Pillissippi
Yeah,
student,
yeah.
so I just sort of need to share it with you that we had a Pillissippi student who's in our Getting Ahead class, and he had struggled for a very long time. Churches have really worked with him, but he's just so intelligent. But his mental model of My Life Map now was just incredible. He drew a maze, and then he wrote all the barriers in the maze, and he went, no matter where I go, I cannot get out of the maze. Any decision I make, it's like it's the best of 2 bad choices, and he just couldn't get past that. But he was a very, very hard worker, and it was a really neat mental model, because in Getting Ahead, that's one of the very first things you do is you draw your mental model of my life now. Where am I, and what does that look like? So
It's sort of overwhelming as they put it down on paper. And we mentioned this, the tyranny of the moment. We need to act overwhelms any willingness people have to learn. So the healthier you are psychologically, or the less you may seem to need to change, the more you can change. And we talked about this stressful environment not being able to absorb new material. So thus the Getting Ahead program, where they have this time to build on what they have. You know, Bridges sees everyone, including people in poverty, as problem solvers, as people of strength, that they have resources they can build on. But when you're so tired from living here, you don't see your strengths. The grandmother I was telling you about, she had great strength. She had persistence. She had motivation. She wanted to care for her grandchild. She had a great spiritual resource. She didn't feel any of that because she was so worried about things. So Getting Ahead helps them to identify those strengths and build on it. That's very good. Okay, so we're going to look at the mental model for wealth. And as you see, before we develop it here, it has 3 things that we found in the other mental models. Mental health, chemical dependency, and health. So the mental model for wealth, you've got another word in the middle. You've got the word connections. So you really don't need to achieve. You've achieved, you know, your life isn't really achievement based. You know, it's management based. You're managing the resources that you have. And you don't really need relationships to get by from a day-to-day basis. But what's really important to you is your connections. You know, with your social group, with your, you can see there's lots of different things on here. Oversight of corporate property, personal concerns, vacations, lawyers and accountants. You want connections with the right person, board of directors, and what have you. So it's a whole different venue. And it comes with a very separate set of rules, as we'll be talking about later. So what are the interactions with wealth with the same thing we've been looking about? What about police? You can buy them off. You can buy them off. The right donation, right, to the whatever their campaign they've got going.
You see yourself kind of a pro.
You might have influence on who is the chief of police, right? And what about church?
Fellowship Hall is named after you.
Oh, I love it. That's great, Ann. The Fellowship Hall is named after you, the wing of the church.
Maintaining status.
Status. A certain church, certain, you know, move in certain areas. You've got, you know, your fellowship and worship.
It goes with the connection.
It goes with the connections, yeah. You're connected to the right place. And that's very interesting. What about social services? Do wealthy individuals have any connections with social services?
They dislike them.
They dislike them. Okay, they
Or
dislike.
they volunteer.
They might volunteer, you think? Maybe. Maybe.
Some.
Some.
They're on the board.
They're on the board. So they're governing maybe some social services or, a board, community boards or what have you. What about schools in the area?
Private.
Private schools, they're gonna attend private schools and maybe contribute and donate to them. So let's examine this really quickly. What time frame are the wealthy in? Because you said the middle class were in the future. You said poverty was in present? What tense are they in?
I think it's both.
Both? Okay.
Because they have things established. They
Oh.
can.
Yeah, they don't need to plan
They
for
can
the future.
live in the present,
Okay.
but they definitely want to make sure that the legacy continues.
Okay,
So
and
I think it's a
legacy
little bit
is
of both.
past. They wanna make sure their family money and what have you continues on, so they wanna preserve the legacy of the past. That can be a little bit past oriented. Okay. And then the businesses might be different. Fancy restaurants, what have you, boutiques, country clubs. Might look a little different in those areas. Okay, we're gonna look at another mental model, just really quick, to sort of depict some things. And we're gonna look at a floor plan of apartments, of an apartment in poverty and an apartment in middle class.
We're fixing it. It's not quite.
They're putting their people in the
Sorry about
right
that.
rooms. They're putting the Velcro. So we're gonna look at middle class first, and this is a family, and we'll see, I think you guys can see it from here. Okay, Rusty's gonna hold it up for us. So we've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,500 square feet. It's a modest house, right? It's not a gigantic house. And we've got Mom, Dad, Max, Carrie, Fido, and Scooter the cat. So when you're thinking about bedrooms, where will Mom and Dad sleep? Do they have their own bedroom?
Yeah.
Which bedroom do you want to sleep in?
The bigger
The
one.
big one.
on the
Okay, they
left.
get the big one. Okay, they go there. Okay, then we've got Max, and what bedroom, does he have his own bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put him in the next biggest one maybe. And then Carrie and her ballerina outfit is going to go in there. And where are we putting the cat and the dog? Wherever they decide. Wherever they decide to go.
Yeah, put the cat in mom and dad room.
Okay, so is there
cat
room
on the
in
kitchen
here?
counter.
The counter.
The counter, yes, the bad cat on the counter. So is there room here for Carrie and Max to do their homework in a quiet environment?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there potentially someone to help them with their homework?
Yes.
Okay, they might get help with that. Can they go outside and play in the yard or the neighborhood? Without the parents coming with them nearby?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay, maybe not. All of us helicopter
Keep the
parents
back
have
door fixed.
feelings about that. Okay, and Carrie's obviously got her ballerina suit on, and Max has his baseball cap, so are they in extracurricular activities? They have things to do that are fun and interesting after school? Okay, alrighty. And then if Carrie, head lice happens everywhere. What if she comes home with head lice? Is it easy to treat her and isolate her and get rid of the head lice?
Yes, she has her own room.
She has her own room.
bedding.
Okay, so you can clean the bedding and clean her.
The
Okay,
cat.
now let's look at our
Sorry.
next mental model. We got them
I'm
out
thinking about the cat.
Did the cat give Carrie?
No,
ice?
Carrie will get
Okay,
cat.
so please, baby. The cat is a problem. Okay, so now we've got a family in poverty, and we've got a mom and dad and grandma in the wheelchair. Can you see that? And then 2 kids. We've got Scott and Eva. And then we've got baby Chris, who is actually a nephew. So, and this is mom and mom's boyfriend. So and let's see, we've only got 2 bedrooms, so where are they going? Step up just a little bit more, come out of the light. Come out of the light. Where are they gonna go?
This bottom bed.
Bottom bedroom?
It's the bigger one.
The bigger one, okay. And then we've got grandma. Where's she sleeping?
Living room.
Oh, she has to go to the living room. Poor grandma. Okay, grandma. This group is a little mean. Okay. Where is Scott and Eva going?
The other bedroom.
The other bedroom.
Go together? Okay. All right.
Even though
Grandma's
you don't like the boy.
been put out to the living room. And baby Chris, remember, he's sort of living with them right now.
You mean the
Maybe
parents'
in
bedroom.
the parents' bed or the closet?
Their
Oh, you want to
closet.
put him in the closet? Baby Chris is
They'll be
in the
put
closet.
there.
Okay.
But they have the door open.
This is only 825 square feet.
guess.
So where are the kids doing their homework quietly? Remember, the TV is always on. Is there somewhere where they can go do their homework?
Their room.
Their
bathroom.
room. Okay. The bathroom. And then who's helping them with their homework? Because mom and boyfriend both work different shifts.
Grandma.
Grandma. Okay. Okay. Who's bringing resources to this family? Extra resources. Well, maybe. Oh,
Social
actually, he lost
media.
his job.
Not social
He
media.
lost his
What's it
job.
called? Agencies.
Agencies. Okay. Who else has an income in this family?
Grandma.
Oh, she comes
Yes.
with a Social Security check. So you think she might bump them out and get a bedroom? Because she pays rent. Are we bumping them? All right, we're bumping them. Grandma's going in the bedroom, she's got money. Kids
You
are
could
going.
put grandma and the girl in the bedroom.
Okay, even grandma, all right, okay.
That way.
So what happens when Eva gets lice? Can you contain this?
Grandma gets lice too.
Grandma gets lice. Grandma's never gotten lice before. Okay, so she got lice. Now can the kids just, they're driving grandma crazy, can they just go outside and play?
Probably not.
Remember, these two may not be home. Maybe, maybe not,
And
right?
grandma's in a wheelchair, so she can't.
She
do it.
can't chase them. So, okay, so the stability there and the safety issues, you can sort of see what the noise level might be, and it might be a difference. Now, these are generalizations and patterns, may or may not be true for the family you're dealing with, but just another little pictorial thing for you. Okay. So as we're looking about at mental models, here's just a sort of a summary. And remember, these are patterns. There are going to be exceptions to every single one. And you know what? Funny thing about people, we don't fit into boxes real well. So our mental model or experience might be half poverty, half middle class, partly wealth, who knows? We might be a mixture. So just remember, they're patterns that have been observed, they do exist, but you can't put them onto everybody. So we're going to develop an understanding of what the experience of poverty might be like. As a social worker, I told you my mind was sort of broadened a little bit. I knew a lot about working with people in poverty, but I don't think I understood what it felt like to be in poverty, the stress, the time problem that Gina mentioned of trying to get things done. We're much more understanding when our clients cannot get to these steps that they've decided to take in a week. And the other thing, by thinking about environments that may be totally different than the ones that you grew up in or that you're in now, you'll be less surprised when you hear about it or see about it. Many times families are living together, there's different people in the home, and the people are coming and going. And this will help you not to be shocked by something that is completely different. And it'll bring your own mental models to the awareness, so you're sort of aware where you're at, because this is sort of a self-awareness class. If you don't know exactly where you're at and your biases, it's going to be hard for you to really open your mind to accept somebody who's totally different than you. And it's not that you want to be judgmental, it's just that we're just victims of our environment. We are products of our environment, the way we were raised, and our perspectives and our attitudes. So we've got to be aware of that. So practice suspending your own mental model in order to understand where someone else is coming from. Okay. Are we on to?
Yes, but I think it's probably good if we take a break.
Yes.
So
And then
everybody
we'll
can run
do
the
this
rest of
when
the room.
we'll do this when we come back.
And then we'll start with the causes of poverty.
There's water. Does anybody have a peanut allergy in here?